most of which is still being processed.
It's really difficult to say right now what the Boxing Day tsunami taught us compared to what we didn't know before, because it's taught us so much. It taught us that we actually don't know a lot and that we have a lot more to learn.
What the Welbys learned is that life is fleeting and precious. In appreciation for their survival and in recognition of the thousands that did not, they spearheaded a fundraising effort back home in England. To date, they've raised $25,000 for the people of Gaul. Many mysteries about the Indian Ocean tsunami remain unanswered. One of the biggest questions is how the highest waves could possibly have reached a staggering run-up height of 35 meters. Far beyond what had been thought physically possible by an earthquake-triggered tsunami. But as huge as that tsunami was, it is not the biggest wave to strike in recent history. Landslides can trigger a different kind of killer wave, producing a tsunami of monstrous size. And scientists believe an ultimate tsunami looms in our future, a wave of such epic proportions that nothing like it has been seen since prehistoric times. In a remote bay in southwest Alaska, a native legend tells of a beast that shakes the ocean and destroys those who walk its shores. In 1958, a local fisherman came face to face with that beast. A mysterious wave more than twice the height of the Golden Gate Bridge. The story of this incredible phenomenon began 5 years earlier, with 2 American geologists on assignment in remote Lituya Bay, Alaska.
We were in the bay mapping the geology and primarily interested in the stratigraphy because of the oil potential of that part of the Gulf of Alaska.
They didn't find any oil, but they did find one of the scientific mysteries of the century. George Plafka was one of the scientists.
One of the obvious things you see when you're in that bay, if you're looking closely, is that the trees are of different ages as you go away from the shoreline.
Plafka and his colleague noticed that a band of younger trees circled the entire bay hundreds of meters above the water. The scientists knew this dramatic change in vegetation meant a large-scale disaster had struck the area. But they saw no evidence of fire or avalanches.
And so we speculated about what that could be and had all kinds of ideas about glaciers shoving forward very rapidly. The other was that there were submarine slides going on at some of the deltas along the margin of the bay, or that there was breakouts of large amounts of water up higher along the glaciers and then they flood down all of a sudden. We had everything except the right way, the right idea about how those waves could form.
The geologists left Lituya Bay without solving their mystery. 5 years later, they got their answer. In 1958, Howard Ulrich takes his 8-year-old son, Howard Jr., on a fishing trip to Lituya Bay.
So we went into our favorite anchoring spot and dropped our anchor and made supper, and finally about 9 o'clock we went to our bunks.
An hour later, the boat starts shaking violently. An 8.3 earthquake centered 21 kilometers from Lituya Bay rips across the water. Howard and his son rush up on deck just in time to see the most amazing sight of their lives.
It looked like a big explosion, like you've seen big explosions in the water on TV. That's exactly what it looked like.
What happens next defies the imagination.
As the spray started to settle down, out of the bottom of it came this huge wave. I would say that the wave was close to 1,000 feet high at that time. The actual wave.
Traveling at an estimated 112 kilometers per hour, the liquid mountain is charging straight for Howard and his son.
Just coal black and full of logs, just straight up and down. It was actually a pretty horrifying looking sight. I just thought, you know, this is the end. There's no way you're going to get out of this.
In a desperate attempt to keep control of his boat, Howard turns on his engine and drives directly into the beast.
Started pulling all the anchor chain out, and when it got to the end of the chain, I thought it was going to pull the bow of the boat under, but it snapped that chain just like it wasn't even there.
The giant wave lifts the tiny boat high into the air.
I looked out over the stern of the boat, and we were looking down on the trees, and I figured that's where we were going to end up.
Unbelievably, their boat rides up and over the wave, and the Ulriches land back in the bay unharmed. 2 other vessels and their 4 occupants are not as lucky. This incredible footage was filmed the next day. Everything in the wave's path is destroyed, no trees are left standing, and most soil is ripped off down to bedrock.
The run-up height of 1,740 feet is the world record, I think, for anything that's happened in historic time. And it was, you know, it's 500 feet higher than the Empire State Building. That's pretty big.
The earthquake felt by Howard triggered a massive rock slide, sending 30 million cubic meters of mountain hurtling into Lituya Bay. The debris slammed into the water, creating the giant wave.
It just swooped down a very steep slope and ran out into the fjord and basically forced all the water out of that little arm in front of the glacier and shot it up over the ridge that was on the other side.
One mystery remained. The amount of water displaced exceeded the amount of land that fell into the bay. It took 42 years to solve this mystery. Scientific models determined that the rapidly moving landslide created an air pocket behind the wave, preventing the water from sloshing back. The force of the air pocket combined with the size and weight of the landslide shot the water out of the bay like a missile.
Be the same as if you took a paddle and ran it down, pushed into the water full speed at a high velocity, just push all the water right out.
The effects of the giant Lituya Bay wave remain clearly visible today. The event rewrote the history books and changed our understanding of tsunamis forever. Landslides can and do produce waves far larger and more destructive than ever thought possible. Lituya Bay's desolate location limited the damage caused by the giant tsunami. But should an even bigger landslide-generated wave strike a major city, the result will be an ultimate disaster. In 1958, a landslide-generated tsunami, taller than the Empire State Building, obliterated an Alaskan inlet.